This entitled mum is about to have a bit of revenge happen to them, but of course they are going to blame their neighbor. What kind of stupid excuse do they make when it's their own child causing all the trouble? Happy birthday, today's your birthday, and on with the revamped show. I work in a children's hospital and I register kiddos for surgery. We get a lot of people from different ethnicities and backgrounds. All around I love my job, but occasionally there's an EM that just isn't too much fun. So it's been a good day, and as usual, we get a few phone calls from mothers panicking because they'll be a few minutes late to their check-in time. But I get a phone call from an EM and it goes something like this. Same day surgery, this is me.
Hi, yeah, I'm letting you know that we're not gonna be there until 11. I'm not waiting an hour for my kid to go back to surgery.
I failed to mention they have patients check in about an hour and 30 minutes before their surgery for the pre-op nurses to get vitals, doctors and anesthetics to come and talk to them beforehand, and also the kids are supposed to be NPO, nothing by mouth, so as not to put them at any risk with the anesthesia and such. Okay, let me transfer you to the pre-op team and you can let them know. I thought nothing of it really and figured the pre-op team would explain everything as they usually do, but I was wrong. Apparently the EM yelled at the pre-op team over the phone when they told her about the reason they have to check in an hour and 30 minutes before. Anyway, fast forward to when the kiddo surgery is supposed to happen. They walk in and the EM has her chin held high as most EMs do. My coworker checks them in and tells them to sit by the doors by the pre-op so they can hear when they get called in. The entitled mum instead takes her kid to the waiting room where there's snacks and drinks for the parents while their kids are in surgery and proceeds to give him water and ice. A big no-no. They get called back and when the nurses discovered that she has been giving him water and such, they said, "We'll have to cancel the procedure and reschedule," due to him eating. The EM went ape on them, yelling at them, saying that,
"I'm not going to leave until the surgeon himself comes in here and tells me it's cancelled."
So she and her kid were just sitting there in the pre-op room for hours. So much for not wanting to wait, waiting for the surgeon who has other procedures he needs to do. They got cancelled and rescheduled for a couple weeks out. Fast forward a few weeks to their next scheduled surgery. They don't show up for this one and get rescheduled again. Then today, a month and a half later, they finally show up, 20 minutes before their scheduled procedure. Not check-in time. Chin still stuck up, but finally she wasn't an idiot and didn't feed her kid anything and he got his procedure. I don't know if these entitled mothers think they're better than the whole process. Nobody likes waiting in a waiting room. Everybody feels like it's pointless. You're not alone in that. That's how everybody feels. But unfortunately, most of the time there's some sort of good reason for it. If you were in a meeting or if you were having a procedure and there was something that caused your procedure to take longer, to maybe save your life or something, you wouldn't want the doctors to be like, "Alright, well we gotta get you out of here because there's people waiting in that waiting room and we don't want to keep them for too long." A little bit of backstory. This happened around May, and I live next to a married couple where the wife has a garden, which from what I've heard, she's had for years. You might think it's just a few pretty blossoms and bushes, but nope, her entire front left side of her yard and front yard, those patches of dirt you'd see next to the stairs leading to the door, was covered on various plants, flowers and shrubs of all different sizes, shapes and colours, etc. Enter our EKs, both male, with the oldest being 11 and the youngest 9. These two live across the street on the right from us and had a nasty habit of crossing the street to pick neighbours' flowers with amazing skill, making bouquets for various reasons like special occasions, events, and sometimes just to make mama happy. The worst part is that EM would tell them to do it. Neighbour has repeatedly told the two to stop to the point where she went over to talk to their mother about it. From what I've heard, it didn't go well. Apparently EM didn't want to buy bouquets at the store because they were too expensive and the drive is just a waste of gas. Plus, it's not fair. You have all those flowers and you won't share? How greedy. She would call the cops, but she knew they'd just give her a warning or take EM's side, since around here the cops are pretty easy to lie to. Instead, she decided to take matters into her own hands. A week later, when I left with my brother for vacation from the house, I found thorny bushes scattered around her garden, mostly in the areas that made it extremely difficult to get through without getting pricked or cut a few hundred times. I found out she planted firethorns, blackthorn, and my favorite, creeping juniper bushes. When I asked, she simply said, "I wish them good luck." Not even a week later, I hear banging on the neighbor's door. Looking out the window, I see the EM fuming in rage, while her kids were next to her, equally upset. Some even had bandages on their arm, leg, or face. She looked less of a Karen and more of a semi-fat soccer mum with quite a bit of cash to her name. Haircut wasn't the being your manager, but instead the my son owns insert random unrelated company that isn't even that serious. May I help? EM cuts her off.
How dare you hurt my children?
Explain to me how I hurt your children? I did nothing wrong.
Nothing wrong? Nothing wrong, look!
Presenting her kids to her, full of bandages, very upset and possibly on the verge of crying. Let me guess, hurt while playing?
No, your death garden did this. My kids are scared of your yard because those plants were hurting them. Do you know how much money it costs to buy them knee cloths? Because their stuff is getting ripped and torn from the thorns?
Well, why were they in my garden in the first place? If they stayed away and stopped picking at my yard, this wouldn't have happened, and you wouldn't be yelling like you have no brain at me right now. I planted them because I thought they were beautiful. Not only that, but burglary exists everywhere, so it's perfect protection. After a little bit of back and forth, the EM leaves, not without the threat of suing her and demanding the thorny bushes be taken away. Luckily, the kids stopped picking at her yard, while EM gave death glares neighbors way whenever the opportunity shows. Now this is entitlement in its truest form. The EM doesn't want to put the money or the time or the effort into planting her own flowers in her own yard. Instead, she is very happy for a neighbor to do all that work for her, and then she doesn't even pick the flowers herself, she sends her kids on to do it. So they take all the risk, including hurting themselves in thorny bushes, which was a clever self-defense, might I add. So I got a new Switch a bit after it came out, and got Pokemon Let's Go for it because I love the series. Knowing that I was going to be on a short flight, I thought to myself, hey, why don't I bring it along? Oh boy, not one but two entitled parent kid combos came my way. Encounter 1. I'm sitting in Heathrow under the big departure announcement boards. Already past security. My gate isn't announced yet and I'm shiny chaining. I lost the chain because I didn't pay attention. When suddenly a tiny voice behind me pipes up.
You have to throw the ball into the yellow ring.
It was EK. I half turn, smile at the maybe 6-year-old boy and nod. Yep, I know. Thinking that's it. I go to the next Meowth and catch that as well. EK again.
No, you already have that. You need to catch something else now.
Not wanting to argue with the kid, I shake my head and tell him that I want lots of Meowths. The kid goes away and I chain maybe another 5 or so before a rather large lady steps like uncomfortably close to me and leans down into my space. The entitled mum.
Are you the one who told my son to go away?
Bad American accent, by the way. Southern, I think. No, praying that this isn't an entitled parent story. I hope that's the end of the conversation. It's not.
He's good at games, you know. He could play professionally.
I bite my tongue at her bullcrap. I'm not sure her kid is out of diapers, and she wants him to play a non-e-sport professionally? Sure. She seems to wait for me to say something else, but thankfully, when I don't, she sighs dramatically and waddles off. Great, I think. Time for a nice, relaxed flight. Ha ha ha. Encounter 2. I'm comfy in my window seat, belt buckled, tray up, and relaxed. The seats next to me seem to be empty. It wasn't a full flight, being an afternoon trip to Ireland. Then at the last moment, a pretty normal looking lady with 2 young kids, 7 and 9 maybe, practically sprints onto the plane and drags the kids down the rows behind her. She slows down near my row and I start getting a bit nervous. And then disaster strikes. She shoves the 2 kids into the seats next to me and sits across the aisle on the other side. I immediately offer to switch seats with her so she can sit with her kids, and I, well, don't have to, so she doesn't even acknowledge that I spoke to her. Well, whatever, I think. I connect my headphones to my phone, put on some music, and pull out my Switch again. I fly too much to still listen to the safety announcements. I start a new chain, this time to spam candies, aka Ratata. We take off and maybe 10 minutes later, a small hand reaches over to try and touch my Switch. Let's Go doesn't use the touchscreen, so the boy wouldn't have been able to do anything. But I don't want my stuff touched. Sorry, that's mine, please don't touch it. I tried to be nice, even though the kid was a tad too old to not know this.
Isn't it my turn yet?
The entitled brat goes. I actually thought I misheard him through my headphones, so I took them off and asked him to repeat himself. Nope, still the same. What do you mean, turn? The other kid turns to me and goes,
Mama says we just share toys and games. Everyone gets a turn.
That's nice, but this is mine, and I don't want to share it. I'm doing something. The girl seems content enough with this. The boy is not.
But you have to let us.
Pruh. No, I freaking don't. Temper starting to rise, I shift it even further away from him. He starts to sniffle like he's gonna cry, but it's very obviously fake, so I just ignore it. Blessed silence for a minute. Then the EP who's ignored me earlier gets up and actually waves her hand in front of my face, even though my headphones weren't even in and I could have heard her.
I want you to share that with my kids.
She pretty much orders. Sorry, but no, it's mine and I want to use it.
Come on, we're on a plane. It's not like we can run off with it or anything.
That thought hadn't actually occurred to me, but it sure did then. Doesn't matter, I'm still doing something. Please leave me be. One exaggerated eye roll later, she sits back down.
Fine, when you're done, they can play.
Again, not even a request, just an order. I play a bit more and then accidentally put it in sleep mode. I pack it away quickly.
Are you done now?
The EP asks as soon as I put it away. Sorry, battery is dead. I quickly put my headphones on and stared out the window. I know she said something else, but I didn't bother listening. I was just glad she left me alone after that. Tense rest of the flight and some glares from her, but nothing much else. The kids didn't even care anymore, by the way. Oh, and when we landed, I walked straight out with my hand luggage, and EP and kids were in the conveyor belt waiting for their bags. I hope they lost them. You know, in all of our Switch stories, I don't think we've heard that one before. Just pretend the battery ran out. I mean, they can't play the Switch if it doesn't have power. Then again, you're still gonna get the insane EPs that do something crazy, like try and take it off you anyway. So it started on a fairly cloudy morning. I'm sitting on a bench with my Switch, playing Smash Bros Ultimate, when I want to draw Mega Man, my favorite fighter in the game. So I put my Switch back in my bag, get my drawing stuff, and start my drawing on the robot boy. It's going pretty well, when a kid, roughly 4 to 5 years old, and what appeared to be his twin brother, came up to me.
Hello, what are you drawing? Yeah, what are you drawing?
Oh, hi there little guys. I'm drawing a character called Mega Man. Wanna see?
Yeah.
I flip the page in my sketchbook round so they can see. At this point, I've finished the basic line work and I'm starting to shade.
Wow, that's good. Can we get Mummy and Daddy to see?
Now me, being a big softie to kids, says sure. The kids run off and get this super tall typical Karen in about her late 20s, possibly early 30s, and a fairly short stocky guy who looks about 30 himself. Hi there.
Look at this art.
I show the artwork to the adults. Cool Dad seems impressed, but the entitled mum has a scowl on her face. This is how our convo went.
Rub it out, I don't like it.
Me, mortally offended by her tone. What? No, I spent an hour and a half on this.
I don't care, it's bad and shouldn't exist.
I flip my page back round. Maybe there's a mistake or something? P.S. The pose I'd drawn Mega Man in was one with his arm cannon pointed upwards, his other hand on it and doing a cute smirk. I see nothing wrong with this. Cool Dad sensing my concern and awkwardness. Honey, we need to go now. Cool Dad is cut off by EM.
Destroy this rude crap or I'll get the security.
I realize what she's going on about and snort loudly.
Don't you dare laugh at me. I'm your elder.
Miss, do you have a problem with this character's waist armor? EM scowls so hard, she looks like she has an hourglass for a face.
Yes, get rid of that art.
Sorry, I didn't design him. Go whine at Capcom, not me. Cool Dad sniggers a little at my comment, and EM turns bright red.
Kids, we're going, come on.
Her and the two kids turn to leave as Cool Dad approaches me. Sorry about EM. She's really picky about clothing designs. It's alright. Cool Dad hands me a £2 coin. For your trouble. Keep drawing, okay? Thanks, I will. Not everyone is going to approve of the different types of artwork of everyone else. Whether it's because they aesthetically don't like it, or they think it's inappropriate for whatever reason. What I don't understand is why make a big fuss over it? You're not going to stop that person from liking the art style. And effectively, you're not going to have made any difference or change in the world, except for just ticking other people off. So often it's best to just keep your own opinions to yourself. So this just happened and I am mad. My mother's friend was over and she brought her 10-year-old kid. My mother mentions I just got a hamster, so EK wants to see him. I bring EK to my room where the hamster is, and I explain to her that I only got him on Sunday, so he's still shy and not used to people yet. I tell her she can't pick him up, but give her a sunflower seed and tell her she can put that on her hand to see if he'll come up onto it. I had put a lot of emphasis on how she shouldn't try to pick him up or touch him forcibly because he's not tamed yet and still not used to people. EK ignored this and started chasing him around the cage and trying to grab him. My hamster was visibly stressed. Please don't do that, you're scaring him and he might bite you.
But I can do this with my friend's hamster.
I only got him a few days ago. He's not used to people yet, so he won't let you pick him up or grab him. He's scared of you. EK then goes in a huff and I decide to do the teacup method of picking him up because this child would not be happy unless she sees him do something. My hamster readily goes into the teacup and I lift it. This gets him used to being picked up. Don't reach in and try and touch him. He's still getting used to it. EK immediately tries to grab him out of the cup and drops him. Luckily he fell into his cage and I hadn't lifted him too high, so he was fine and not hurt. However, he was very scared and went to hide. EK proceeds to knock over his hideout just to see him. I fix it and close up his cage. Right, that's enough. You've scared him too much and you've dropped him. You should have listened to me.
But I can do all this with my friend's hamster. You're just not letting me have fun.
I explained he hadn't been tamed yet and you were scaring him. I specifically told you not to try and pick him up, and you did. If you dropped him on the floor, he could have died. EK runs off to her mother. I then started fixing the mess EK made when EM comes in to speak to me. You were very rude to my child. I'm sorry, but I'd explained to her how she should behave around the hamster, and she ignored everything. She even dropped him. She was lucky he fell in the cage, because he would have died if he fell on the floor. She's just a child. She didn't understand. She's 10. She's old enough to understand basic instructions on how to treat a hamster. Well, she's learned her lesson. Let her play with him a bit more. No, he's stressed enough as it is, and he's sleeping anyway. She'll be better around him. Please just let her play with him. No, he needs time to de-stress and sleep. You're so heartless. I'm telling your mother about this. Go ahead. I'm sure she'll agree the well-being of my pet comes before the whims of your child. In the end, my mother agreed with me, and EM ended up storming out in a bad temper. I'm still very mad about it. I'm not going to endanger my pet because your child can't behave or follow basic instructions. You know that's the sort of mother that no matter what age her child's going to be, she's going to make some excuse. Like if she's making this excuse when she's 10, even when she's 15 and does something wrong, it'll be like, well, she's still a child, she's still a teen. If kids don't learn that personal responsibility early, they're never going to learn it, especially if the parents always make excuses for them.
Submit your story to be read on the channel at voiceyheresstories@gmail.com and join our Voicey veteran community at r/VoiceyHere. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. Alright, Voicey veterans, I'll see you in the next one.